So thank you to everybody who's tuning in to our course today. Our course today is Understanding Triggers with Carolyn Herbert. And guess what? If you feel like you're in the wrong room, good news is it's not like college when you accidentally walk into the wrong classroom and the professor makes fun of you. If this by chance you just happen to stumble across it somehow, welcome. So the first thing I want to do is I want to we got to read our oath. And Carolyn, if you could go back a slide.
Okay, I say that.
If not, that's okay. I will just read it. If you can read it on your end too, Carolyn, but you don't have to say it out loud.
My slides at all. I don't know why my slides won't move at all.
Huh. Okay, well, I'll read the oath. You can read it too, Carolyn, on your end. We just won't show it. Oh, there we go. Okay. So let's do this.
Okay.
I, Tiffany
Carolyn,
Joy Green,
do solemnly swear
to accept the lifelong obligation
to hone my
superhero powers and apply those
superhero powers
to the good of the
people
I serve. I will promote and add to the ongoing success of our people, its members, and the people, organizations, and communities it serves. I will help prepare the next generation for superheroes. I am driven to be a positive change agent for those I serve and interact with. Woohoo! So next step is I'm going to pass the baton over to Carolyn so she can teach us Almighty Wise One.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being able to have this opportunity today. I do have, a lot of experience in working with folks that have triggers, that have issues that do impact us on an everyday life. We've gotten to the point where employers need to look at this as well. We as a society have been wonderful at talking about mental health issues and how the behaviors impact us. Society have been wonderful. All right, I got confused. I'm sorry. So anyway, let me go back to saying what I was doing. We don't do as much about mental health and think about it as much as we probably could or should. Mental health is an issue that has become very apparent, especially during and after COVID, because we've started to notice that we all have some anxiety. We all have things that trigger us. We all have things that we're afraid of. It may not be huge fear, but at the same time, it might be something that's just grating on us. So if we understand that, the workplace is already very stressful. It's very organized. They have deadlines. You have to do things in certain timing. So we want to be able to look at the anxiety of those folks that are going through this and ways to help define solutions for these triggers. I am Carolyn Herbert, as Tiffany announced, and I am a mother of two, a grandparent of two, and we've been married for 45 years. So we've dealt with a good number of opportunities, whether it's being a mother, a grandparent, a wife, a teacher, just a friend. We all have things that we do, and no one person really only wears one hat. I did retire as the director of special ed with an emphasis on mental health. Those were my favorite students. Those were the ones that I felt were ready for the biggest changes. And knowing how they were thinking made a huge impact on how much I could do to support them. In 2016, I did start Herbert's Wine Jelly. My business was designed to help those who had mental health issues, had then been incarcerated, and would be released within the next 10 years. So incarceration brings on so many triggers that we've been able to work with plenty of people that now have gone through the whole opportunity of entry, re-entry, etc., back into society. We do make jellies and peanut butters. The guys actually came up with what they want to do and came home to an envelope of profits and the ability to have a job until they could get a better job. We are excited to say that every single one of the people that I have employed since 2016 paid taxes this year, which means they're now making enough and making a living to sustain themselves. We also only have had one person not actually come all the way through the program, but he has done his own thing in his own way, and that has worked. This year, we opened Herbert's Horizon of Hope, which expands what we do to include more training for the folks that are reentering, as well as a prison art program, and the huge piece is support to the families while people are going through this. It's not just the person that's incarcerated that goes through this. It's as if it's a loss to all of the family members. So we are definitely a prison advocate, and having the background from mental health and special ed, then headed here, most of what I'm going to share with you is personal experience on how to get through these. What defines a trigger? Well, anything that causes you anxiety is a trigger. What is it? Is it something with a relationship? Is it something, the tone of voice that somebody uses? How in the world do you know what your triggers may be? Well, have you ever sat there and go, ugh, I'm in the middle of this, and somebody uses a tone of voice or a look? Teenagers that roll their eyes, it does upset parents. It's very annoying. There are just certain things that are said or how they're said that does trigger us. And as those without identified mental health issues, we actually need to be able to think about how we deal with them. I know that, for example, I don't like bridges. For example, I don't like the sound of styrofoam. My whole body just kind of shakes when I hear the sound of styrofoam. Other people can't stand the nails on a chalkboard. That's fine to me, but the styrofoam will get me every time. So learning to understand how anxiety affects people, we need to first identify what our own triggers are. And once we learn that we have triggers and how they affect us, what coping skills do we use that prepare us to get through them without additional difficulties? Do we take a deep breath? Do we put our fingers in our ears? Do we close our eyes over the bridge? Hopefully you're not the one driving. But in reality, I think it's important for us to understand, my husband drives over a big bridge. I don't. That's just the way it is. I'm not going to do it. I just can't handle it. We were going over a bridge in Savannah one time, and I was just with my boys, and it was like, get over the bridge, get over the bridge. And it's huge. It's so high. And finally, my son looked at me and said, but Mom, if you'd go like more than 10 miles an hour, you'd get over it faster. And I had not realized that I had slowed down so much gripping the steering wheel that I was terrified of what was going on. So knowing it and understanding it, now let's look at the fact that, let's say our trigger is something, much more involved. Do I have an anxiety issue to begin with? Have I had post-traumatic stress disorder? Have I had any kind of a mental health diagnosis, depression, trauma? And sometimes we don't identify trauma as, you think you go through the trauma and you're over it. But there's certain things. Think about yourself now with those little triggers that you have, and coming back as a soldier, coming back as, being able to get through the depression of something that was traumatic to you, the death of a family member, the when you're in prison, it could be the rattling of the keys. So how do we, because that the guard is coming or whatever, and you're not sure of what's going to happen next, And the fear of the unknown is what causes much of the anxiety. We don't know what is going to happen. The PTSD, we don't know what will trigger it. So we need to look at all of these different things. And I think that, we've also almost come to the point in the United States of saying, most people have something that bothers them. It may not be so much that it's identified, but we all have some level of anxiety. We all have some health diagnosis that may bother us or limits us, and it's frustrating, and we don't want to have people see that those are our weaknesses. Any of those things can be the triggers that we want to make sure that we can, deal with. So it's very important in the workplace to understand the behaviors that are out there, understand that in order to provide the best working situation, the mood has to be the best. You need to make sure that you have the employees' best interest, because they're going to make your best employees. They're going to be the best. They're going to do more for you. They're going to they're not going to be out as much. Their work habits are going to be more regular. And I think that one of the things that we see in a lot of things, we have, how do we react to them? And when we look at the framework of triggers and what that causes in your behaviors, some people, they see a policeman, they run. Well, that's an instinct at that point. So it can be from internal or it can be from environmental. I know that most of my guys don't like to see police because they're always assuming that they're doing something wrong, that they've done something wrong. And that's a difficult way to live every day. When you're doing it that way and not being able to really help yourself and help the others that we need to talk about how we can deal with those nicely in the workplace and not have it continue to be a real problem. One of the things that we want to talk about is if we identify our trigger, if we evaluate our response, if we as individuals figure out our own coping mechanism, and then we stick to that, and we end up seeking support if we need it, but otherwise we need to be, I think it's important for us to understand. I think it's important too for employers to say, there are some things that really bother me, and it's okay. We need to come together if there is something that's really, really bothering you and move forward to work together. Responses to triggers. If we're in let's even say a fast food situation, you can't leave the hamburgers burning on the grill and take a break. That's not going to take care of things. So we have to be creative in making sure that the employees have a way and a place to take care of that. We don't know when that may come out. I will share that the one thing that my son had mental health issues, and he had some seizures. He would know when they were coming. The seizures were usually triggered. And the only way he could deal with it, he was a driver for delivering pizzas. This was in high school. And he would know when it was coming. And he would have to curl himself on the floor of the passenger side of the car to help him calm down. He needed to be almost in a fetal position to help himself get through it. Well, it would take him 3 to 4 minutes sometimes to be able to get through that anxiety piece. But he knew how to handle it. So that 3 or 4 minutes, it was not going to cause him his job or other things, because he had a way to take care of it. The people there that worked with him, they had mutual respect for each other. he could say, oh, I'm having a problem. I need to do this. I'll take I'll leave in 5 minutes, to deliver whatever it was. I think that that's something that relies on the mutual respect. And he worked there for years, all through college. He took that kind of a job, so he was able to take care of the triggers that he had, which caused significant problems to many workplaces. But I think that the other thing is, if we prepare a safe space for people and understand that what we can have around us can provide our safe space, I think that we have the opportunity to bring out the best in others. One of the things that, we see a lot of is the fight or flight, but we don't want to see that particular fight or flight, because that's just not going to get the job done. You're going to fight, you're going to flight, the concentration is gone, the ability to follow through with whatever it is. You certainly can't do that in the middle of a meeting or something, but it is something that you're going to say, okay, I'm going to fight or flight, but I'm going to wait. Let's learn how to wait a minute. Let's take into account that we have a freeze response. What if we don't fight or flight, but we all of a sudden just freeze and we stand there and we're not sure what to do, how to act? Did I feel safe in that area to do that? Sometimes you do, and sometimes it's difficult. How long do you freeze? So sometimes it's important to actually talk to someone there who then understands your situation. And it all depends, of course, on how severe it is or not. But sometimes when you are helping those that may have more triggers than others, those returning from combat, those that are have been in a serious accident, those that are going through relationship or family issues, all of those things increase the amount of triggers that they're going to have. There are other ways of kind of dealing with them, and in a way that helps everyone be more productive and move forward. I think that it's important to understand that not everything has to go through an EAP program, employee assistant program. There are some things that can be done right there. People tend to be uncomfortable with the EAP, not that they are afraid to use it, but they don't want other people to know that they have, situations. What do we do as what we consider mental healthy people? We may take a deep breath and just calm for a second. We may do something along the line of just closing our eyes for a few seconds and just try to calm. We may stretch, we may turn, we may pull our neck a little bit, straighten our back, something that causes a different physical piece that goes through your body. Well, when it's a little bit more severe than that, we need to take in some other behaviors. So when we're looking at my triggers, I had talked about the squeaky styrofoam. It grates on my nerves to the point of where I can't think, I can't do anything. I'm shivering. Or I'll stop if it, or run out of the room. It is my fight or flight reaction. What are the things that I can do to stay in the room and not let everybody else know that I can't do it? If I can close my eyes and pretend that I'm blocking everything out, it helps. Does it stop it? No. But hopefully we can get through that. So do take a second or two to think about, what is it that triggers you? What response do you have? And what is it that could help you stay in control? I think as an employer of quite a few kids along the years, and forgive me, but my kids sometimes are in their 40s and 50s, but I'm a little older, so they could be my kids. I think it's important to understand that we have the experience to hopefully know what others need without just being the bully boss of the old days. The old days, people would come in and just say, do it, and, continue that pressure on and on. When we address behavior, some of the things that can really start to help are using our five senses. What is it that is going to help that person? If you see that they have difficulties, encourage more short breaks, not a 15-minute break. Say, come over, let's take a 3-minute break. A lot of 3-minute breaks may be much better than a full 15-minute break. You accomplish more work because the break wasn't so long that it interrupted much of anything. Even an assembly line can take a short break very quickly. So we want to look at the five senses. In your area, just in your work area, it's okay to have some soft music many times. Some people prefer the classical type music. Some people just need noise. A lot of people just like work best at home when the TV's on or something. It's a noise. It's another way to distract you from going into a stressor. Have stress balls available. If somebody has a particular scent that they like, if they like peppermint, if they like lavender, sometimes that just helps if they can smell some right about that point and will help calm them down. It just breaks the anxiety that you have. And then again, the hard candy, the taste. So we use all five senses to help us prepare more of a safe space, because people will be able to find what helps them the most. We talked about stretching, we talked about breathing, and the five senses then come into play to address some of those behaviors. One of the things that, before we get to the full summary, what are some things that we can actually do in the workplace that is going to help that? We want to provide resources. I think that training every once in a while is very important in the area of what is it that we need to do when we are stressed? What is it that we need to do when something just totally irritates us? If it's somebody's voice or somebody says a certain word that really bothers us, we need to talk about the fact that we need to validate it with our employees, but we also need to tell them, think about what grated on your nerves and decide what you need in your workspace. Is it a stress ball? Is it something? Now, that doesn't mean that you have to turn around and, provide everybody with everything. It doesn't mean that you have a little safe room that you go to. It means that person may just need something in their pocket. They may just need a little something that's going to break that stress. These are not big things, but they make a huge, huge difference when we're looking at the amount of work that you can get out of an employee, the absentee rate, the amount per day, and certainly the things that we just need to address, how we can improve that person's behavior, that person's health, in a way that is different than what we have seen in the past, and how we actually think about how they go through their day. Think about the fact that, a lot of our people have had trauma in their life. A lot more people than what we used to think have had more trauma in their life. So what is it that causes that trauma? But each person pretty much needs to help understand what it is in themselves. But as employers, if we take the time and the energy to do it as a group or do it individually, they don't have to share any of theirs. But if we talk about it as, what do we do? And just like the little chart that I had, our guys all do it. We do it at different times. We'll do it at least once a year and say, what is that trigger? What is your reaction now? Don't tell me what it is, but tell me how you feel like you can resolve it. And then at some point, just come to me and say, I just need really, really short breaks now and then. The behavioral health does go into the professional support, just like the employee assistance program, or a psychiatrist, or a group meeting, or a support group, or something along that line. And be open about willingness to help guide people in that direction. If you see that, if you're the employer, you're doing evaluations. Evaluation is a nice time not to address, oh, you've really got a problem, let's see what we can do about it, but what is it that would make this workplace a better place for you? Doing that, we have found that my employees in particular, who have been through quite a bit previously and have a lot of triggers, we find that they're very comfortable in this workplace. They know that if they say something, we are going to do all we can. And I'm not saying that my workplace is as tough as and as rigid as other places, but every day we cook, every day we have people delivering, every day, all of these things have to get done to keep the business running and keep having salaries for them. It could be, the paperwork will overwhelm you at some point. We need to address, oh, wow, I was doing fine. And then all of a sudden I got this extra responsibility. Now, how am I going to deal with that? Because this is like overwhelming. Okay, well, how can we resolve it? But we don't have to always be talking to people. It's not like you have to brace it. Just be open to the fact that you have triggers. I think once we understand that everybody has a trigger and everybody has a response, it makes it much, much easier to be able to address any behavior health of a company. A company that has good behavioral health, it is one that becomes much more successful in every area. And statistically, I don't have, I get a lot of this from experience, but statistically, those that the employees talk about as being a great place to work, it doesn't mean they like the actual physical piece that they have to do, or they like all the paperwork that comes with it, but it really does address the fact that they are comfortable. They know if they're having a rough day, if something has happened with them, that they don't have to share it, but certainly people are going to understand that they may need a little bit more that day than the next when it comes to a little bit of a break, or just, being able to, use their senses in the best way that helps them. I hope that in placing the triggers and behaviors into a way that it's very individualized, it shows you care about the people. Even if you're not the one that gets the support, if you understand that there is support for those who do need it, that makes you feel more safe. And I hope that this has, helped in some way to provide you with ways to see yourself and to then pass that on to others in a positive way in order to make your workplace a more productive workplace. Are there any questions?
I'm going to put myself off mute. And now that we're open to the Q&A portion, I want to thank those who joined us live on Facebook Live. If you're not currently an Empower People member, you can become an Empower People member for free. And once you're a member, you can then join the Q&A. And why do we do that? It's because when you sign an Empower People membership agreement, you sign a confidentiality agreement. So everything you can ask, you feel more free to ask questions, and your questions can then feel a little bit more personal. So again, if you're not already an Empower People member, go to our website, dropped it on the Facebook live chat. You can go sign up there. But for all the Empower People members, we're going to continue the conversation. I'm going to stop the Facebook Live, but we're going to continue this conversation. I'm recording, and you'll see it on the Empower People members only website.